When you think of China, you probably think of Beijing, Shanghai, or the Great Wall. But beyond those headline sites, many travelers still find China hard to plan and even harder to navigate. In this episode, I'm chatting with my friend Lucy, who recently traveled independently through China, about what it's really like on the ground and what first-time visitors actually need to know.
Welcome to the Global Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is founder of the Global Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. Each week, Tracy is joined by expert guests as she takes you on a journey to destinations around the world, sharing travel inspiration, itinerary ideas, and practical tips to help you plan your next adventure. Join us as we explore everywhere from bustling cities to remote landscapes, uncover cultural treasures, and discover the best ways to make your travel dreams a reality.
Hello and welcome back to the Global Travel Planning Podcast. Now, today I'm joined by my friend Lucy, who recently returned from an independent trip through China with her long-term travel partner, Joe. When Lucy first told me they were heading to China, I admit I was intrigued. It's a destination we're hearing more about, but one that still feels a little intimidating for many travelers, especially if you like to plan trips yourself. Now, Lucy, as you'll hear, is originally from the UK. She now lives in Australia and loves exploring destinations that sit a little off the main tourist trail. In this episode, she shares exactly how their China trip came together, what surprised her most, and what she wishes she'd known before she went. We talk about traveling beyond Beijing and Shanghai, using China's high-speed trains, booking accommodation, navigating language barriers, and the realities of paying for things in a country that's almost completely cashless. Now, Lucy also shares practical tips around eSIM cards, VPNs, apps, food, cultural differences, and what makes China feel far more accessible than many people expect. If China has ever felt like a destination you'd love to visit, but weren't quite sure where to start, this episode is packed with honest insights to help you plan with confidence. So, Lucy, I'm really excited for you to come on the podcast because when you told me last year you were going to China, I was intrigued, and it seems to be a destination that I'm hearing more and more about. So, this is your first time on the podcast. So, would you like to quickly just give us an introduction to who you are, where you live, what you do?
Yeah, as you say, it is very strange coming on here and talking like this. But I'm originally from the UK, as you know. I've lived in Australia for over 20 years now. I'm a teacher by profession. I live in Brisbane with Joe and Murphy, our little black fluffy dog.
Very cute little dog. He's sitting on the he's sitting on the sofa between us right now
because he doesn't like it when we travel. But yeah, love to travel, love to explore new places, and especially like going to places that are not so well known.
Yep.
And a bit off the main tourist trail. So yeah, China came about because Joe was flying back from Paris and was looking at where he could fly via using our points.
Mm-hmm.
And China came up and went, well, we've never been. So if we can get flights, how about we go there? So I was like, well, why not?
Yeah, I know. It's interesting. I remember when Joe was flying off to Paris and you were kind of considering where to meet. So obviously you were flying from Brisbane. Yeah. He was flying back from Paris.
Yeah.
So China was a good meeting point.
Both have, really easy connection flights or direct flights.
Yeah.
So that, and the points were there. So it made it an obvious choice.
Yeah.
And like I say, I had absolutely no idea, no preconceived impressions because I knew very little about it.
There's not a huge amount out there, which I know is something we talked about when you were busy doing your research, because both you and Joe travel independently, you like to organise stuff yourselves. So what were your biggest questions before you actually went to China?
Well, it was like, what is there? What is there? What can we see? Where can we go? How can we travel about? Because in my head, I was like, is it easy to travel around? I don't know. I knew nothing. So we went to YouTube. And again, there's very little on there. But what we did find most useful was people who were living and working over there and were traveling around. They gave the best, most practical tips and advice. And also they were the ones who were exploring and gave us the idea to explore beyond Beijing, beyond Shanghai, looking at the other smaller cities and places where Chinese tourists travel.
I was going to say, because of that kind of lack of information, it's not a country that I think there's a huge amount of stuff out there about. So, and we all know about Beijing, we all know about Shanghai, and going to those two in particular, but it's those places outside which you did, which is really interesting. So, how did you decide? And I knew when you had to fly into somewhere, so that would be your starting point. But when you started looking at those YouTube videos and reading information about it, how did you kind of put your itinerary together?
So when we were watching, there was some places you always start off with way more than you can actually do, because we only actually had 2 weeks. And we looked and we really discovered places like the Avatar Mountains, which I had no idea even existed. Really wanted to go there. We wanted to go and see the pandas. We discovered these beautiful islands off the coast of Shanghai. We found out about these villages that had been recreated on the side of mountains. All of these places, like, yes, we really want to go there. They're in the same region. However, when we started to really look at how much time do we have, how long does it take to get from place to place, the reality began to sink in. And China is huge. We think Australia is pretty big, but China is huge. And so the distances, even on a bullet train, so when one of the train things we were looking at was going from Xi'an to Shanghai, even that on a bullet train was going to be 8 hours.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that just to give you an idea of the distances. There are ones that you can go from Beijing to Shanghai in about 4 hours, but when you're doing other places...
So it's that, isn't it? It's kind of deciding where you want to go and then actually looking at how realistic, logistically it is to do it, where you're not spending every single day on a train.
That's right. We didn't want to spend all day or waste a day when we only had 2 weeks of every couple of days being on a train for several hours. So we started going, right, where are the must-see places? We're flying into Beijing. How many days do we think we need there? What do we absolutely want to see? What would be nice to see? Because the other thing we had to take into consideration was we were going in August.
Right. Okay. So that's busy and hot, I'm guessing.
It's extremely hot, extremely humid. We know that Beijing is a city of concrete, so we know what that means. It was also summer holidays for Chinese school children. So we knew that there would be crowds. So this is where YouTube was really useful, because we watched a few videos of locals saying these are the crowds if you're going to places like the Forbidden City, if you're going to Tiananmen Square. You can be waiting hours in queues in the sunshine with no shade. And until you actually see the volume of those crowds, it's hard to imagine. It's like when you go to Taylor Swift or an Ed Sheeran concert and you're trying to get out, and you imagine those queues are everywhere and those crowds are everywhere.
That does not sound like a lot of fun, Lucy.
In the high tourist places. There are plenty of other places. So we ended up deciding that places like the Forbidden City and Tiananmen Square would be if we can, we will, but it's not a must-see. So we looked for the lesser-known places and got some good advice, and we went up to, I think it's Jingshan Park, where you can see the Forbidden City. There were people there, but we could walk around. We enjoyed the view. We saw it.
And you weren't in a great big line waiting 2 or 3 hours to get in.
That's right. I think the waiting in queues was one of the things we were really, really conscious of and not wanting to spend our days there. So we had 4 days in Beijing, one of which we went to the Great Wall.
Because I guess that has to be done, doesn't it? You can't go without doing that.
This was a highlight for me. Absolute, just can't believe the ancientness of it. I don't even know if ancientness is a word, but the...
have you seen Hadrian's Wall, Lucy?
Yes, I have. It's even older than Hadrian's Wall. It took 1,500 years to complete.
Wow,
which
that's
just
incredible.
Blows my mind.
Wow.
When you see the craftsmanship on the side of mountains, across mountains, and how steep it is, it's phenomenal. And it was just standing on there, feeling so insignificant, and just seeing it going on and on and on and on and on, and trying to get my head around. It took 1,500 years to complete. That's
incredible, isn't it?
It just
incredible. And how you so that was a day trip?
That was a day trip. So this was an interesting one because we had a day of absolute torrential rain the day before we went to the wall, because we'd left some flexibility in our plans just so that accounting for weather. So we went the day after the rain. In the taxi, we got a taxi to the wall. On the way, the driver got a message saying, "Oh, you can't go to that place." So there are 3 main places that people tend to visit from Beijing. There's Badaling, which is the closest, where a lot of coach tours go. There's another one starting with M that I can't remember. I'll remember. And then there's Simitai, which is about 2.5 hours from Beijing. While we were in the taxi, we were on our way to, I'm going to have to remember what it was called. It starts with an M, I know that. And he gets a message saying it's closed. And we thought, this is this is a scam kind of thing. He's trying to get us. But he absolutely wasn't. He was trying his hardest to get us to the wall. And because of the flooding that had taken place, it was actually closed. Something we hadn't even considered could happen. Yeah. So he took us to Simitai, which was 2.5 hours from Beijing. And I'm so glad that we did that. It was beautiful.
So you'd recommend
I would
going
highly
there?
recommend there. The other thing, I wish we'd known about that one or done a bit more research into that, because you can stay there. And so you can actually see at that point the wall lit up at night, and you can explore a bit at night.
I'm just noting that down. That is just the sort of tip that absolutely is priceless.
It's on this kind of, they call it the water town, and it's a town that's been rebuilt for tourists. So it's very pretty. Reminded me a bit of the Cotswold villages and things. But very man-made, but very pretty. And I think if I was to go again, I would stay there at least for one night and then go up and climb the wall. Well, not climb the wall. We got the gondola up. I would recommend that in the heat, because it's steep. You can't believe how steep it is until you actually see it.
Yeah.
And I'm not very good with heights either.
So you're all right in the gondola, though?
I'm fine in the gondola, and I'm fine like walking down, but looking down, and I think if I was climbing up, I would have given up. But I would recommend going up in the gondola and walking down or climbing down, especially in the heat. Yeah.
And then, so would you recommend as well, because of that, I guess the weather issue, and I guess it could happen to anybody, is to try and organise to go to the wall earlier on in your days when you're in Beijing?
Yeah, and this is another thing why when you're going to places like Beijing, where if you really want to go and see the Forbidden City or Tiananmen Square, places that you have to book, be aware of the crowds and the weather. Because we had planned to go to Tiananmen Square the day that it rained. We hadn't got tickets, and we're about to book when we looked at the rain and went, why would we do that in the rain?
Yeah, pointless.
So there were other things that we decided to be inside for, because it was torrential rain. So definitely having a buffer of a day to play around with, because again, if we'd booked a tour to go to the wall, it would have been an awful day.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's good having that flexibility.
Yeah.
So you spent 4 days then in Beijing, and then where did you head to next?
So the next place we went to was a little town. It was 4 hours south of Beijing that we discovered from one of the clips on YouTube. It's a town called Pingyao, and it's one of the towns in China that's been continuously inhabited for 3,000 years. And you can tell when you walk around, you just feel this thing. So it's this small walled city that has a laser show in the evenings, of which displays the history on the city walls of how it came to be and what it's, with dragons and wars and different things. But fascinating to see, just walking around this city that is so ancient.
And is there a bit of a juxtaposition in China of that kind of the ancient and the kind of new? Because you're talking about a light show and this kind of ancient.
Absolutely, there is. I mean, in this is where Chinese people go on holiday to explore their culture and see their heritage. But on the trains going to this place, the sheer size of the cities is really hard to comprehend until you see it, because these apartment blocks, and they seem to be built in clusters, just go on and on and on and on. So you'll be leaving the city and then these things will just go on for about half an hour.
Wow.
Bearing in mind you're on a bullet train.
Wow. So you're going fast?
You're going fast and you're not in the countryside, and it's just, and these apartment blocks must be 20, 30 stories high.
Wow.
And in groups of like 8 to 12. And so that just the volume of people and how big the cities are was just blew my mind.
Yeah. So tell me about what you did after. Sorry, you're going to have to tell me the name of that place again. Is it
Pingyao?
Pingyao. So we'll talk about your accommodation options in a bit. So you went to Pingyao from Shanghai on a bullet train?
Yes.
And how did you find the train? I have to ask Doug what the trains were like.
The trains were amazing.
Yeah.
The train travel was another thing that really surprised me. They're efficient.
Mm-hmm.
The booking system is very, very easy. The ticket then gets attached to your passport. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so the tickets get. So what? How did they do that?
Everything that you do is booked through trip.com. Hotels, tours, train tickets, everything, and it gets logged on your account.
Okay.
If you book a train ticket, if you book a tour, it will get attached to your passport. So you have to carry your passport everywhere.
Right.
It's an expectation. Like, that's your identity card while you're there. And so when you get to the train stations, which are like airports, exactly the same as the airport. You go through security, you have to check in, you can't go onto the platform until your train is called.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's one of the places where queuing is really orderly, very efficient.
Wait, say one of the places. Why is it not in others?
Not in others.
Okay.
No, personal spaces thing. But there are definite rules to follow.
Right, okay.
And they will tell you if you're not following the rules correctly.
So did you book your seat as well? So you have a reservation for your seat?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's the precise train, the time, and the seat and the carriage. And so once you scan your passport, they let you through, you go onto the platform. All the carriages are numbered on the platform, and you queue very orderly behind the line. You do not go in front of the line until you are told.
Right,
you follow the rules very, very carefully.
Sounds like you get told off. Were you told off, Lucy? You weren't told off.
We weren't told we're off, but we watched.
Right, somebody else
watched and we learned very
learned what
quickly.
to do. Okay, so you obviously you took the train a lot around China.
Yes.
That was your main way of getting around.
It was very easy to book and very
was it
easy
expensive?
to use. It varied.
Right. Okay.
Look, if you went on slower trains, they're a bit cheaper.
Yeah.
Look, I think one of the most expensive ones was going from Xi'an down to Nanjing, which was about $130. Australian dollars.
Yeah, okay.
So others, depending on the time of day, the weekend, whether it was a holiday or not.
Yeah.
All of that it did. But it wasn't cheap, but it wasn't
But
expensive.
it sounds like it was good, though. It sounds like it was pretty
very
good.
efficient, and they run on time, and it's very, very easy.
That's good.
Very, very
right.
easy.
So you took the train down there. You went Pingyao, and then so you did your 4 nights in Beijing, and then was it 3 nights? Did you say in Pingyao?
We did 4 nights in Beijing, and then we did 2 nights in Pingyao.
And then where did you head from there?
And from there, we decided that everybody kept telling us that we should go and see the Terracotta Warriors, because that would be nice to see, but not a must. So we went across to Xi'an, and we had 3 nights there. We were going to have 2, but then we liked Xi'an so much we ended up staying an extra night. Xi'an was a really unexpected surprise.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because it's somewhere I definitely would like to go to. Yeah.
The city walls, again, another ancient city, but also a bit more modern and much, much bigger. Something to note is that if you stay in the city of Xi'an, then getting to the Terracotta Warriors, it's about an hour.
Okay.
So it's
going
just
to build that into you. It sounds like a good idea, I think, to actually stay there, and especially 3 nights as well. So that was a reasonable amount of time.
We were actually going to stay a bit longer, but the weather forecast was terrible.
Right.
So we decided to move on, because one of the really good things is you can cancel the hotel on the day.
Right. Okay.
So cancelling is up until about lunchtime or something on the day that you
so accommodation had to be booked through this trip.com as well. Okay,
yes,
so it's all very centralized how you're booking stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So, and was there a lot of choice? I know I was kind of going to talk about accommodation a bit, but was there a lot of choice for accommodation?
There are a lot of hotels on there.
Right.
If we talk about the accommodation, it's very, very varied.
Right.
We were advised to use trip.com because although sites like booking.com and Expedia do advertise the hotels, other travelers had experienced when they got to hotels that they were saying, no, your booking doesn't exist, or no, we don't accept foreigners, whatever. So we were advised to do everything through trip.com because that's the Chinese local site. So that's just.
But what's really good is that it gave you some flexibility, as you say, if you can cancel that late as well. And could you book trains that late as well if you changed your plans? Okay, that's really good. So you can actually have a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, I think there may have been a cancellation fee, a minimal one for the trains, but for the hotels, pretty much you could book, because we booked an extra night in Xi'an at the hotel that we were in, and then just cancelled on the morning as we checked out. It was very, very simple and straightforward. So
where did you head after?
So after Xi'an, we headed down to Nanjing.
Yep.
We spent 1 night in Nanjing, and we were umming and ahhing whether we were going to do another one, but we decided to move on to Yangzhou after that.
And why? What was the attraction of Yangzhou?
The food.
Right. Okay. Well, why not? Why not?
So Yangzhou, we heard about on a YouTube clip, but also some locals at the hotel that we were staying in Nanjing recommended to go there because, again, it's a place that Chinese go to. It was only an hour from Nanjing, and it's actually a UNESCO gastronomical town.
Okay.
So something I'd never considered before, but it's famous for its fried rice, and it's where fried rice originated from, and the recipe is very, very old.
So I'm assuming it was good.
Hundreds of years old, but so to be given UNESCO status for its food was
a huge draw.
A huge draw. And again, a smaller city, lots of like the castle walls again, ancient town to little streets to walk down, a beautiful river. And because it was summer, you get the light nights and you get people gathering on the side of the river in the parks to just spend time with their friends, in the evening, and so beautiful river walk. There was lots of lights. That they have a river cruise that we did actually do, which again shows the history of Yangzhou, and it takes you down the river, and at certain points there are other barges with performers on, which will tell you a little bit about the history of the area and things. But the light show was really, really pretty.
These light shows seem to be really popular.
They love their light shows.
Really popular, yeah.
Yes, and I don't know whether it is because it was summer or it's something that they do all the time. I don't know. But just walking along in the lovely balmy evenings along the side of the river, seeing the groups dancing and singing, and yeah, it was just lovely.
Sounds really nice. And how long did you spend eating your way through that particular destination?
I think that was only 2 nights because I think we were running out of time by then. But again, we would have stayed an extra night if we could have. It was a very easy city to walk around, very easy to find places, lots to see, nice parks, more kind of outdoor things, not a lot of shrines and kind of historical things, but just nice place to wander around. And
then you headed to...
And then we went to Shanghai.
Back to Shanghai. No,
so,
Beijing to Shanghai. I shouldn't go back to. You didn't know. Because I'm guessing you're flying out of Shanghai.
And then we flew out of
Shanghai. So into Beijing, out of Shanghai. That works really well.
Yeah.
So what were the highlights for you? Because we've kind of done a quick part of history of what you did, but what were the things that, because it's a few months ago since you went. So I always think a few months after is when you kind of reflect on one of the things that you still go, oh, that was amazing. Loved that.
Yeah. I mean, standing on top of the Great Wall and just looking at this thing that has been created and built, just going on and on and on and on and on. So that was a real highlight, and I think a bucket list kind of thing. The other highlights when I was thinking about this were, I think, the people that we met.
Okay.
Who just were so open and interested in talking to people who weren't Chinese.
Yeah.
Because again, places like Pingyao and Yangzhou, although they're touristy places, they don't get a lot of Westerners.
Yeah.
So we're still a novelty. And so they're interested. If you are watching them singing, if you're watching them dancing, it's fascinating to them why you would want to do that.
Yeah, you're interested.
So they want you to join in, or they want to come and talk to you. Yeah. And so that for me was, just seeing how people were so open and friendly and interested in other people.
Oh, it's really, I love that when you go to a destination and you can talk to people, come and ask you and welcome you basically as well. I remember that very much so in India. That was, for me, that was probably the destination I've been so far where I felt so welcome and so interested in finding out about us and what we're doing. And that was lovely. So I look forward to that in China as well. What surprised you about China?
I think how technologically advanced the cities were, and how the efficiency of the transport, the ease of paying for things. We did not use cash at all. One of the really important things to know is everything is done through Alipay or WeChat. It's really, really efficient system. It's really easy. Every storeholder, every taxi, every tourist site, and even individuals use Alipay.
So did you have that set up before you went? Did you download that before you went?
Yeah. Some things that you really need to do before you go are set up the Alipay, set up the WeChat, and set up Didi.
Okay.
For the ride share.
Good tips.
Because that's what we use for taxis, and that they're really quite reasonable and cheap.
Okay.
But yes, setting up Alipay and WeChat, because there is no alternative. That's the only way to do it. You can't just do credit card and tap and things, it's much more complicated. And doing it on your phone before you go to check it works and check your bank will let you do it.
Okay, so it's not something you can kind of load. It's not like, I'm thinking about the Secret card in Japan where you can load it with the amount and then you use it.
No, it works like Google Wallet.
Right,
and so you attach your bank card before you go.
Yeah.
Or whatever way you're doing it before you go to make sure it works. And then we had access to our local Australian SIM card because occasionally Alipay will say a code, and so we had to switch between SIM cards.
Right.
So having a SIM card with a VPN included is essential.
Okay.
Because you cannot go around China without your phone.
Right.
You have no access to Google. You have no access to your email because it's all blocked. Some sites say, yes, you can use like the VPN, the Express VPN and the NordVPN and things. They work sporadically.
Right.
They're not reliable because they get blocked all the time. So having a SIM card that has a VPN attached to it.
So what did you use? What did you find that worked for you?
So
because I think this is essential because, we're in a day and age where we have to be connected. So
yeah, so luckily, Joe is all over this, and we use Global Starlink because many companies sell eSIMs for China, but very few of them have them with the VPN built in.
Okay.
When he contacted some, they said use your own VPN, but we know that doesn't.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and you need to be guaranteed. Yeah,
and you need to be guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because that is something that we take for granted because we use it. Everything is Google, or we've got our Yahoo or Gmail or whatever.
Yeah.
You cannot access any of that unless you've got a VPN.
Right. Okay. And as you say, some of the others not necessarily a bit patchy,
and
being able to get that.
Don't.
Yeah. And that's a bit terrifying for somebody like me who spends most of the time online doing that.
So we had emergency SIMs that we bought from Aldi just in case anything happened to our own, so that we could log into our accounts and do things. We had a spare phone just in case, because if you lose your phone,
that's anywhere in the world. Yep. I'm terrified of that. If I lost my phone, what would happen? Because everything's on it. And we're all the same with that these days.
We all back up via Google or anything. And if you can't access that, then you can't access anything. Yep. So it's being aware of that. It sounds scary, but if you're aware and you've got a spare phone, you've got a spare SIM card, you've got, about the VPN.
Yeah.
Then
you're fine. You're prepared for it. You're covered.
Yeah.
So, and I know we're going to talk a lot about kind of some of the kind of challenges and some of the lessons learned, because you've been and done that now, and you were kind of, you can prepare as much as you can. And then there's always going to be a couple of things that pop up that you're not necessarily kind of expecting. I guess a couple of questions. I'm going to ask the kind of the practical stuff, because we've kind of covered the fact that you didn't use any cash and you booked through this kind of trip.com. How did you find it culturally, that kind of cultural expectations? I know that's something that we were very conscious of, like when I was traveling in India and Japan. I always tried to kind of have an awareness of cultural expectations. How did you prepare? How did you find that?
That was actually okay. And people were generally happy to help, especially in the bigger cities. They were so used to Shanghai. They've got the European connection. They're used to seeing foreign faces. So that one felt a lot more European and a lot less Chinese to me. But Beijing, again, they're used to having foreigners around, so they will help you. They're eager to.
You went to some of the kind of lesser known. So I guess those places, I'm kind of interested like how much you could get by, I'm guessing that you don't speak Chinese. I mean, I don't know, you and Joe may surprise me and say you do. But.
No, I speak Shay Shay is about my thing. Translation apps.
Yep.
Are absolutely essential. A lot of gesturing, a lot of laughing. But we found were generally really happy to help. They liked when you engaged them and asked them questions. What is this? How do I do this? We didn't find so many people who wanted to know anything more from us. We found a couple, but mostly it was the transactional things. It was...
Are there any signs in English, for example, if you go to a train station?
So some train stations, yes, some no.
Okay.
Beijing, the airport, Shanghai, the airport, everything was really easy, really efficient. I don't remember having trouble in the metro systems, so I'm thinking that, yes, they were in English. Whenever we went to shops with menus, we would take a photo, use Google Lens because we had our VPN. That was essential.
Yeah.
We did that a lot.
I was going to ask you about the food. Like, how would you know what you were eating and ordering? Google Lens is absolutely crucial for that.
So we used our cameras and Google Lens a lot to navigate around. We used to communicate with drivers in cars and train stations and different things. We used our translation apps. They worked really, really well and were really helpful and just made everything a bit easier.
Yeah, I love it where you can actually speak the words in and then it comes out. I was even in, I'm trying to think where I was recently, whichever country in South America, I can't even think at the moment, Ecuador. And I was at the airport and I was going to buy, it was a fridge magnet, and there was a special on the fridge magnet and the lady was trying to explain it to me. So she just asked me on my phone, spoke it in that, and then it came back to me and said, there's a special offer on. And I was like, no, it's okay. But it's like everybody knows these days, like, it could do it on my phone and we can translate it.
I mean, some of the things that we did find a little bit strange was the spitting in the street.
Okay.
Everybody spits everywhere. And you'll just be walking, they'll be walking next to you and they'll just spit in your direction. You're like, because it's just, I've got to do it. So everybody else has to get out of the way. It's up to them to get out of the way.
I'll be getting out of the way. I'll be getting out of the way quickly.
That kind of noise and that kind of thing was...
That's a bit confrontational,
everywhere.
I think, for culturally for us Westerners. I
being
think
aware, the other thing is, there's loudspeakers everywhere in the parks and the big cities and different things. But you'd be in a national park or at a shrine, and there's all these loudspeakers just barking instructions or things at you, so you're in this really serene place, and then there'll be something comes across on this loud
like an announcement or music or something.
So, but again, you just go, okay, that's just how they do it. And we think that they were just gentle reminders, but nobody whispers in China.
Right.
Everybody talks loudly, and again, once you just get used to that, it's okay. But because I think it's the volume of people, you just have to talk loud to be heard. And so they do. And they will talk over you, and they will just push in front of you, and they will just, because it's about them getting the thing. And we might be queuing to get into a lift, or you might be in a lift and you've left a person's space between you because that's what you do. No, somebody will come into the middle of that because that's a space.
Yes.
And they will fill that space. And that was a little bit interesting.
I remember being told that in India by our guide as well, don't leave any space because somebody will stand between it in that little bit of space. And I think that again that's also a kind of a Western culture that we used to, and we're British, Lucy, so we like to have the kind of arm width between ourselves and other people. So that's something, I guess, again, just adjusting to and having the expectation to know that you're potentially going to find that uncomfortable, but it's just a cultural thing. Before we kind of pop into the kind of tips for first-time visitors, anybody's planning it, I have to ask you about the food, because you've mentioned the food. You've you talked about it. You talked about UNESCO city that's known for its gastronomical delight. So tell me about some of the amazing food that you ate.
It was, and one of the astonishing things was we didn't actually have much rice.
Okay.
We had noodles a lot. We had soup, we had dumplings, we had soup dumplings, we had rolls of different, with different fillings. We had...
As in bread rolls?
Had some bread roll, like kind of bread rolls, more kind of like a roti.
Okay.
filled with meat or vegetables. Different places had different types of food, different types of soup. But yes, rice was very limited. We did not see much rice on any menus.
And what about the city that you went to that you think invented it?
We tried the rice.
Yes. Was it good?
Look, we just think we went to a bad place.
Oh, that's not good.
Look, it was very average. It was just fried rice for me.
Okay.
But we did try things like I had an ice cream made of peas.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like an ice block.
Green ice cream.
Green ice cream.
Have you got a photo of you with this?
I have.
Oh, we'll be putting that in the show notes because I want to see that.
They like to put little funny faces on their packaging.
Yeah.
There's some really odd looking sweets and lollies and different things, and with fat baby faces and things that we find a little bit strange, but they obviously find enticing.
Yeah.
Look, we found access to fresh food that was cooked there and then with really fresh, tasty vegetables. Everywhere.
Yeah, that's great.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Even when we went into a little kind of juice bar that was a chain, juice and tea bar that was a chain, we saw them delivering the fresh fruit and vegetables on a trolley coming, whereas here we don't necessarily see that all the time. So we knew if we ordered something like that, it was absolutely
be fresh.
Yeah. Any of the smaller little kind of family restaurants and local restaurants that we went into, you can see the kitchen, you can see how clean it is, you can see that it's been prepared as you are ordering it. A lot of chili.
Okay. Yeah. Didn't expect you to say that.
Surprising. So you can, and so ensuring that if you do not like your head blown off, that you get little
mention
chili.
it.
Yes, you talk about that.
Yeah, make it milder.
There is option to eat a lot of offal. We opted not to.
Okay. When I think about China, when I think about food, apart from really good food, the one thing that always strikes me is those eggs that are supposed to be like, I don't know, 10,000-year-old eggs that look a bit gross. You didn't see any of those?
We didn't see any of those. But yeah, anything that kind of looked a little bit interesting or a bit different, that was a roll or a dumpling or noodles, then we would sample it.
Yeah.
And seriously, everything was delicious.
Oh, that's good. I'll look forward to that because I love Asian food anyway. So it's something that is definitely enticing me in China.
Nothing like the Chinese food that we experience over here. Nothing. So really lovely.
Okay, now I'm sure, like me, if you listen to this podcast, you're thinking, I quite fancy this. And I know somewhere that Doug and I have been talking about because we are really interested in visiting China. But if somebody's listening, if you're listening and you feel a little bit nervous about visiting China, and I think a lot of this is because we don't know a lot about China, what would you say, Lucy?
I would say that if you are a bit nervous going on a tour, because a lot more tours are starting to go, to give you your first taste. But once you've been, it really is easy to navigate. If you've got a good translation app and you're fairly competent at catching public transport and you can book a hotel on the internet, you'll find it really, really easy. And the other thing is, because of the government and the way the government monitor everything, it's really safe.
Right. Okay.
So in the big cities, we didn't feel like you have to keep your hand on your bag or watch where your money is all the time, or your phone. Didn't feel anything like that. I think the only time we were advised to potentially keep an eye out was on the Bund in Shanghai. But everywhere else, there are cameras everywhere.
Right, okay.
Your whatever transaction, your phone is tracked, your money is tracked, everything. So they know where you are. So nobody's going to do anything because they can all be tracked and they can be found. So walking around at night, walking around during the daytime, tourist places, we felt really, really safe. Yeah. And didn't feel like you had to look over your shoulder or anything. So
now you guys are kind of experienced independent travelers, both you and Joe. So what would you say? I mean, obviously Doug and I as well. We prefer to plan a trip if we can independently. Though I have recently done group tours in both Morocco and India because I felt that was the best introduction to those particular countries. What would you say about China? Because you did this independently.
We did this independently mainly because there weren't any tours that fitted in with the time that we needed to be there or could be away. So it just evolved. I know people who have done tours, and the common route is either between Shanghai to Beijing or Beijing to Shanghai. It's a very established tourist route and allows a couple of days in each place, hopping on a couple of hours on the train, so you can kind of work. So that's pretty straightforward, and a lot of tours do follow that route. But for me, I think if you have got somewhere to stay for the first night and you know how you want to get from the airport, it was actually really straightforward. And really, because everything was in English and signposted, it was easy to get to our hotel. But if you're a person you can get it organized for a driver to pick you up or the hotel to pick you up. Yeah. And once you're there, it really is pretty straightforward to navigate around.
And I think for Australians, I'm not sure about everybody else, I should check this, but I think the visa has just changed. I think it's 30 days, is it now again?
Yeah, it was 30 days when we were there, so you didn't need a visa.
Yeah.
And you just fill in the form at the airport when you arrive. Easy. Yeah, it was very, very straightforward. You would get off the plane, there's fingerprint machines and a ticky box, which is in English, but take your glasses because the print is very small.
That's always good to know. Or take a photo of it and expand it so you can read it.
Yeah, because that was one of the things was I had to find my glasses to fill it in. But yeah, it was very efficient getting through customs, very efficient getting our bags, and then getting the train into the city. Again, really easy. And as long as you've got your Alipay set up, because you have to get your ticket. And
you don't actually have to say where you're going, so you can have some flexibility in that 30 days you're there. So that's good. So you can arrive and kind of make it up.
As all countries do, say where are you going to be staying. So you just give the hotel address.
Yeah.
As long as you've got that. And then, pretty straightforward.
That sounds really good. Now, you've been once. Would you go again? And if you did, where would you go? And what would you do differently?
So, I would go again. Maybe not just yet, but I would definitely, I think if we'd had 3 weeks, it would have been really good. So a bit longer, because there is so much to see and the distances between places are really big. And we don't tend to like to travel just 2 days here and 2 days here. We like to have a bit longer.
Yeah.
So you can meander and see a bit further than the immediate area. I'd really like to go back and see the Avatar Mountains. That would be...
It's so big, China, as well. It's like you can go to a different area and spend 3 weeks just in that area without, there's so much to do and see.
And there's some of the lakes that were nearby with islands and different, I think more of the national parks and things. I mean, we were put off going there and including that in our trip, because we had seen videos of crowds where people had waited for 4 hours, and it's not something we expect in a national park to have to queue
for 4 hours
to go and see a view.
Yeah, so that's it. Is there a better time of year? Because I know you went in the summer then. Would you say maybe like sort of heading towards more September?
I think later.
Yeah.
September, October, or May, April, May seems to be a good temperature, and there's always going to be crowds, but lesser ones. And I mean, we didn't feel that we were always in crowds. There was plenty of time when we weren't around other people because of the places that we chose to go.
So you kind of chose a little bit more kind of off the beaten path. And then I know I didn't, when I gave you the question, so I probably didn't put this in there, but I'm going to ask you anyway, kind of a rough guide in terms of a budget, because you were there for 2 weeks. Have you got any idea? Lucy's shaking her head. She doesn't know.
Can't remember.
I'm going to have to ask Joe, and then maybe he'll share that, and I can put that in the show notes, because I'm kind of interested. Is it, because I think, is it a cheap destination? Is it an expensive destination? Is it one in the middle?
I think it's in the middle.
Yeah.
It wasn't cheap. Some things were cheaper than we would have here. Some things were a little bit more expensive. We found hotels to be reasonable, and in our budget, we kind of budgeted somewhere between 100, 150 Australian dollars a night, and we could have reasonable accommodation. We didn't feel that it was expensive. We didn't feel it was a cheap holiday, but
okay, that's good, because I think it's always good to have kind of those expectations of, where when you're choosing a destination in terms of what can you actually afford to do and see. Did you have to pay, you mentioned going to the Great Wall, and just something that's kind of crossed my mind. Is there an entrance fee to go in to see the Great Wall?
Yes, there is. So, and you can buy that there.
Right, okay.
The driver will direct you to where you go and buy your ticket. If you go with a tour, they will do all that for you. But it was pretty straightforward what kind of ticket you wanted, whether you wanted some people went up and down in the gondola, some people went down. I think at one of the places you can actually go down by luge.
Okay, that'd be fun.
You go up by gondola and down by luge.
I quite like that.
And some hardy people climb.
Oh no, I wouldn't be doing that.
But I know that where we went, it was probably a 40-minute walk after we finished climbing the wall back to there. And I was like, if we'd done it the other way around, we would have been doing it in the heat of the day,
that doesn't sound
going
fun.
Uphill. And so I was really happy that we didn't have to do that. So
no, that doesn't sound fun. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap up, and I always end the podcast with the one question, unless there's anything in particular that I have missed out, and then you're gonna have to tell me, Lucy. But what would be the one tip you would share with anybody planning to visit China for the first time?
So make sure you have a SIM card with a built-in VPN and lots of data, because apps and things that we are used to don't work. So I haven't mentioned we used Maps. We didn't use Google Maps.
Right.
Because Google is useless. Maps was really good, really efficient, but had to download that. And the other thing I forgot to talk about was the toilets.
Right, okay.
I need to tell you about the public toilets.
Okay.
Finding a public toilet was hit and miss.
Right.
Being able to guarantee it had a Western style toilet in there was very hit and miss. And no public toilets have toilet paper or soap.
Right. So take that with you.
So take tissues with you. I found it hard to find tissues even in supermarkets and things. So take tissues, take hand sanitizer, and be aware, because that was a little bit of a shock.
Oh, no, that's useful. Nothing. That's good to know. But I remember in China, there was in Japan, to dry your hands. So I took a little cloth that I could wash my hands, which I didn't expect in Japan. I mean, the toilets in Japan are like absolutely, we were sad to leave because we had to leave the toilets behind. But I was kind of happy to know that I need to take a
it was
cloth,
always a highlight of the day if we found a toilet that was Western and was clean. And sometimes, but
see, I think those are two amazing tips. So one, you make sure you've got your VPN built into your SIM card. But second, make sure that you take tissues with you and hand sanitizer, and probably a flannel or cloth to dry your hands on afterwards as well, because it's essential. You need to. These are important things to know. I'm really excited to visit. I'm not sure when we're going to fit it in, but it's definitely somewhere. Well, talking to you guys about it is definitely kind of
there's a lot more to China than we ever knew, and I think because we don't know a lot about it, kind of makes it a bit more exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to share some of your photos in the show notes. So do check those out, especially if you want to see the green ice lolly made out of peas, which I'm fascinated about. But yeah, thanks very much, Lucy, for coming on the podcast. It's great to chat to you. Really good to catch up and learn all about your tips for China. And we'll share the in particular the apps that Lucy's talked about for you to download, and we'll also share the name of the SIM card with a VPN as well, so you can check that out if you're planning to visit China. But thanks, Lucy. Great to chat.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Lucy for coming onto the podcast. It was great to chat with you all about your trip with Joe to China. And actually, after we finished recording, Lucy just wanted to say a couple of other points that she kind of forgot. It always happens when we do a podcast. There's always things that people remember afterwards. One is that make sure you take medication with you, for example, antihistamines, because I think they struggle to get them in China. And the second one is to make sure when you're booking your accommodation that you check very carefully reviews. What they ended up doing was making a reservation and then going and checking out the hotel before deciding about whether they wanted to stay in that particular accommodation option. Apparently in China, leaving negative reviews just doesn't happen, and the hotel will do everything they can to mitigate against that. So that was just the advice that came from both Lucy and Joe, to make sure that you absolutely check 100% when you are booking your accommodation, and to do it through trip.com. Okay, so I will put links to the different apps, tools, and resources that Lucy mentioned in this episode show notes, which are globaltravelplanner.com/episode 93. I'm sure, like me, you found this episode absolutely fascinating. China is definitely in our sights to visit in the next year or two. Also, do check out the show notes for Lucy's photos of a trip. I'm particularly interested to see the one of that pea ice lolly. Anyway, thanks very much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please follow the podcast and consider leaving a review in your favorite podcast app. It really does help more travelers find our show. But until next episode, as usual, happy global travel planning. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. For more details and links to everything we discussed today, check out the show notes at globaltravelplanning.com. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast app, because your feedback helps us reach more travel enthusiasts just like you. Anyway, that leaves me to say, as always, happy global travel planning.